Hey everybody, I'm Symes as usual, and with me is Robin.
Hello there.
And
By
welcome
Jingo, it's a space station.
to Kerbal Space Program episode
Hurrah!
13.
We've been in space a long
We
time.
have, and we're doing more moon base preparation this time.
Excellent.
And one of the things we're going to do is get this here slightly suboptimal tanker and repurpose it.
It's a space hopper?
It's going to be on-ground fuel storage on the moon.
Oh, right, we're going to fire it at the moon.
So we're going to take it
I
because
approve.
it's rubbish at taking off from the moon once it's full of fuel, but because we've got the logistics facility orbiting the moon now, we don't technically need to lift fuel from the moon manually. So we can just have a big store of fuel on the moon and move it around with logistics. So that's what we're going to do.
I like to move it.
And so here I'm just transferring some fuel from the station into the tanker, so we can.
The minnow astronaut there seems very enthusiastic about this.
Theo Hat, yeah, he seems to be very happy. I'm not sure
He's
who's
doing
actually
little
in
dance.
I think Theo Hat's in a different. Theo Hat's in a different bit of the station. He's not actually in the tanker, so that's probably why he's happy. He's like, yay! I don't have to fly that stupid tanker. It's Sidley and Curley who are flying the tanker.
It does not look particularly majestic.
It's not brilliant, is it? It's very squat and
It looks like
purposeful.
someone has nailed 4 barrels together.
That is pretty much what happened. So
Science!
Need a lot of
We
fuel
nailed
here.
things.
Let's just nail some fuel tanks to some more fuel tanks. And this is,
Yeah.
again, spending far too much time faffing about getting a manoeuvre node done, so obviously I fast-forwarded through it.
Yeah.
And so, yep, and thrusting. Yes.
Steady.
So, getting the transfer. I mean, this is quite routine by this point. Get the transfer out to the moon.
Yep.
Do some stuff. Yep. We've got that established. So say goodbye to Kevin. Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kev.
Say hello to the moon. Hey, moon. How's it going?
Yep.
And now we're circularizing, which is again, something we've done many, many times now. So just fly into the appropriate bit, throttle up,
And round we go.
just bring the orbit down. It's not a particularly equatorial orbit, but it doesn't really matter because we're not going to be in it very long.
Yep.
So now we will get to watch my precision landing skills as I try and land the tanker next to the existing miner that we've got there. So enjoy.
Yay.
Yes, so it's on there. You can see there's a little lander icon in that crater there, which is actually where the miner is. So I'm going to go around the moon a bit and then adjust the orbit to pass over the crater and then try and land.
Woo.
Ideally next to the miner.
Without smashing into it.
Yes.
That would also be helpful.
That would be ideally ideal. Yes, it's like
Yeah.
it'd be very. It's very easy to miss, but it would be completely ridiculous if I managed to just land right on top of it. So, but that probably won't happen.
What are the chances?
It's quite a large crater and quite a small miner. So
Yeah.
so anyway, here we are, flying in a
Majestically.
Majestically.
Ooh, look at those legs are cool.
cool landing legs, big
Yeah.
bunch of barrels. There's the blue icon is where the flag is, which is right next to the miner, so that's quite handy.
Yep.
And we're kind of
Whee!
whizzing in
Yep.
and
Zoom.
trying to adjust our speed and whatever. 38 kilometers away. Trying to steer towards it, but well, we'll see. Yeah, so there's a lot of kind of do a bit of boosting, look at the map, see what the trajectory looks like, fiddle around, do some more boosting.
Yeah.
Try and reduce our vertical velocity to something a bit less crashy. And yeah,
Being less crashy is good. Ooh,
Yeah.
I see.
Oh, yeah.
Look down there. What could that be?
there's the landing site. It's 9 kilometers away, but we are going past.
How much fuel have we got?
Um,
Is that the
it-
little gauge at the bottom
Yeah,
left?
it's the little gauge at the bottom left, and there is a very large capacity in this. ship, obviously because it's a tanker, which is one of the reasons why that looks so small. But the other reason why it looks so
It
small
looks a bit dangerous.
is that there's not actually that much fuel left. We have 511.98 meters per second of delta V remaining, which is enough for landing.
This is good.
But not much more than that. And we'll actually see what happens here. So we're 7 kilometers away now.
Hopefully there'll be no explosions.
So yeah, and it's just the usual sort of thing. Drop out of the sky, try and fly towards the thing, try not to go too fast so you can't slow down in time. You know how it goes.
Yep.
Flying. 6.4 kilometers away, which isn't too shabby. Just for the sort of aim vaguely in the right direction and hope technique I've been using, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're coming down. We're down to 338 meters a second now.
That's a bit of a walk, but
It's,
reasonably close.
It's 6
on a
kilometers,
planetary scale.
6 kilometers away, but you are starting to get to the stage where you kind of go, well, I need to seriously think about just putting down, because otherwise we're going to run out of fuel.
Yeah, because we can always get more fuel in it.
Exactly. Put more fuel in it and then fly it the rest of the way. And I think maybe I do just do that. I don't actually remember. But the landing lights are on, so it's possible.
Whee!
Just,
Small bounce.
bounce, turn the lights off.
Nice landing.
Yeah, it was actually quite a good landing. And I'm still working out how this logistics stuff works.
Yeah.
And what you actually have to do if you want to do logistics stuff is go to the station, because that's where the actual logistics thing is. So we switch to the station, because that's how you manage the logistics stuff. So what we're going to do is use the station to move fuel to the tanker so that it can fly closer.
That'll work.
So yeah, there's not a lot of fuel around, but we need to find the mining site. So we're actually moving stuff from the station to the tanker at this point. And just like everything that's available, send that. Yep, send that. That's going to take a while. It's going to take it 1 day and a bit. So we're going to do something else while we're waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, let's not just sit around going.
Twiddling our thumbs.
Yeah.
So we move on to do some contracts.
Whee!
Contracts. Planet growth. We got a bunch of contracts for our station science stuff in orbit around Kerbal. And the reason why this becomes relevant is because now we're converting money and reputation into science. Suddenly these high money paying ones become really scientifically valuable. As you can see, this one has 1,058 science rewards for completion.
That's quite good.
And 316 just as an advance. So as soon as we accept this contract, we'll get 316 science.
That's very nice.
Which is pretty good, and we want science. So what we'll have to do is get
Show me the science.
Get all these contracts and send a ship up to the station to do the experiments. But yeah, so we're gonna probably pick up this one, and there's a creature comforts one there, and quark bioactivity, which is at the bottom of the list. So we'll pick up those 3.
Okay.
And then spend the science that we get from the advance, and then do some other stuff with it.
Yeah.
It's there's a slight bug here because although we are getting the science for the advance, it's not actually showing up in the little science meter at the top.
Right.
Because that's staying at 120, which is initially a bit confusing.
A bit incorrect.
Yes. So I'm kind of looking and going, what else is there? And I go, okay, yeah, quark bioactivity. Let's do that too. That'll get us 2,308 when we finish it.
Cha-ching.
Woo! So we've got all that now, and I kind of go, well, it's not showing up, but maybe if I go, so it's me waving the pointer at it, maybe if I go here and try and spend it anyway, it'll work. So, grab a thing. What did we actually buy here? Specialised electrics, yes. And we do spend it, and it does work, and it updates the thing at the top. So we just spent 550, and we've got 1,113 left. So yeah, so that's specialised electrics, which gives us a larger battery and the radioisotope thermoelectric generator.
It sounds fun.
It's great. It's just electricity without requiring the sun to be shining. So
Groovy.
I mean, the RTG, they only produce as much electricity as a single solar panel, but they do it all the time.
That's nice.
And we've got some heavy-duty rover wheels there. which will come in useful later. And I think I'll go over here and get the claw as well. Yes, the claw and some other actuator-based stuff. We've still got 400 left. Let's just get composites, whatever.
Yeah.
And that opens up some more aerodynamic stuff, and the nano lathe thing, which is the thing right at the end, which has the electromagnet in it from CAS, but I don't really care about it. So now we've got 103 science left. So
hurrah!
We've got those two things. Okay, let's move on. Finally.
Yeah.
Next. Yes, contracts. Got some parts tests to do. So,
okay.
As requested, I've done this build a little bit more slowly so we can actually see what's happening.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'm kind of going through my contracts list and hiding all of the ones which aren't related to the parts tests that we're doing, so I can just arrange everything and get the just get a list of what I need to put onto a little spaceship and fire into the air. So there we go. So it's like maneuvering engine, stack separator. Let's just get building. Find something to build with. I've got I don't know if I've mentioned this before because it's only a build-based thing, but you can see the tabs there. There's a thing called Part Catalog, which adds those tabs, which gives you mod-specific stuff, so it lets you filter things down. Once you've got quite a lot of mods, which as you can see we kind of do, it's quite useful.
It sounds quite handy, yeah.
So and you can filter just down to the stock stuff, which is what that red thing that's currently lit up is. It's just squad stuff. And you can delete, and now we're on MRS only stuff because one of the parts contracts is for this maneuvering engine, and it uses monopropellant, but we don't actually need any monopropellant to test it. And so I'm kind of going put it on the bottom. What else? I need to test this jet engine. It's lit up in blue there.
Just to fire the bugger.
Yeah, you need to sort of just slap everything onto the ship that you're going to test, and you need to stage to them in order to do the test properly when they're engines. And I'm kind of going, oh wait, engines don't go on the side, they won't fit. I need to put it on the bottom, but I can't put it under there because that means I can't test that engine as well.
No, as it hovers.
So, hang on. Wait, I know. Put the jet engine on the bottom.
Yep.
That'll be good. Worry about the other one later. I'm not entirely... Oh, yeah, I'm trying to put a stack separator under the jet engine. You can't do that either.
No.
No, because jet engines don't go above other engines in a stack. So I have to rethink.
New plan.
New plan. What's the new plan? Wave the mouse pointer around a bit. Consider putting an LCS fuel tank on. Can't put that on radially. Throw it away.
You don't need that. No.
Eventually I do kind of come to the realisation that there is something I could do here which would be fine, which is to put it on sideways, because it doesn't matter. It's not going to do
slap
anything.
It on anywhere.
Just clamp it on the ship on the side. We can test
More
fire
nailing.
it there. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Not to worry.
It's nailed on. It'll be
So-
fine.
I'm just adjusting the staging because there's actually two different sets of tests we're doing here. There's the landed tests, which we do at the launch pad, and the splashdown tests, which we do after flying the ship over into the ocean. So we add these liquid engines, tiny liquid engines that we also need to use to test. Put them on there.
I like the stripy top bit.
That's the stack separator. I don't often use those ones because there's actually two different types. So you've got actually that's not the separator, that's a decoupler. There are two different types. You get the stack separators first, and the difference between the stack separators and the decouplers is that separators only detach at one side, whereas the decouplers detach at both sides. So you get two entirely separate things, and the decoupler floating detached in the middle.
Right.
And so for us, separators are mostly fine because we drop the lower stage and don't care about it. But if you wanted to just bolt two ships together and send them up and then split them up in space and have them do stuff, you could use a decoupler for that. And I put two quite chunky radial engines on just to fly the ship over into the sea.
The sea's not going to know what hit it.
Nope. And checking something on Kerbal Engineer. This I switched Void out for Kerbal Engineer as well because it has more detail in the staging stuff when you're building a ship. Which is actually quite useful because it tells you what the thrust to weight and everything on each individual stage of your ship is.
Oh, that's quite nice.
As well as total.
Yeah. Bit more detail, as you say.
Yeah, it's quite handy just to make sure, especially if you kind of go in. Well, I want to know.
Those little side rockets do look hilarious, though.
The
they look like upside down, like egg cups or something.
Oh yeah, the chunky ones. They are a bit odd.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I had a quick fade because I messed something up, and then went back to this design. So we'll put this launch thingy on.
Yep.
And wait, something I've forgotten. Parachutes. Quite important.
What, so you can recover it and examine it?
So that when we ditch it into the sea, it doesn't explode.
Well...
So you can't really test anything in the sea if it's exploded. It's like, whoops. Oh,
we can test that it explodes.
We can verify that it does indeed explode as expected. So,
I postulate this thing will explode.
If we smash this really hard into the sea, it'll probably explode. Ah, well, but how do you know? Good point. We must test this immediately. To the launch pad. That's where we're going. It is a weird looking ship. And yep, the launch tests. You can see there's 2 contracts completed at the top. The decoupler is being held onto the top of the rocket by the force of the acceleration. It's not actually attached anymore. Yep, there it goes.
Whee!
And now we're
parachuting flies off into the distance.
Yeah, that's the decoupler. Just putting
moving rather quickly.
Putting some time warp on to get past. Yeah, well, the decoupler wasn't, as I said, the decoupler wasn't actually attached to the ship anymore. It was just being held on by the acceleration. But so as soon as we cut the engines and pop the chutes, the ship decelerates rather rapidly, and the decoupler flies off into the distance.
Hilariously.
So into the sea, stage again. 4 tests completed.
Good stuff.
Lovely.
More moolah.
Little bit of money for that one. Bit of money in science for that one. Money in science and money in science.
Money.
So that's that. All of those done. We got a bit more science. Lovely. Recover the ship. And here we are at the Prospector, because we have another contract which is to plant a flag on the moon. So let's just go and plant another flag.
More flags.
Our little flag garden. Cash flag 2. More flags, more cash.
Yep.
And he goes and jumps back onto the ship again. Whee!
This flag as sponsored by.
And that's that contract complete, and that got us 266 science because of the extra money.
Yep.
To being turned into it, and so that's that done. And now we're going to buy even more stuff. Hopefully, taking a little bit less time this time. Simon, come on. Chop chop, stuff to do.
Flags to put on the moon.
Flags to put on the moon. We'll buy this precision engineering thing. Yep. Because that unlocks something else that we kind of need. Which is, there's a couple more probe cores there, and there's an autopilot component, which is a new thing that I've recently added.
Groovy.
So that particular node that I just unlocked adds the ascent and landing guidance modules to the autopilot. And this is the experiment that we're going to launch onto the space station, and it's got a logistics module sitting on top of it as well. Because I wanted to add logistics modules, so I thought, what the hell, we'll build the experiments on as well that we need to do.
Yeah.
And this is the autopilot. I've put an autopilot on this ship, so there's an ascent guidance thing there. We can tell it how high we want it to go. Tell it not to allow the engines to overheat.
You don't want that.
No, that's quite bad when that happens.
Yeah.
Yes, so with those 3 experiments that we have contracts to do, those are bolted onto the side of the lifter of the rendezvous stage on this. And
carefully nailed.
When they're done, obviously we'll detach and return it to Kerbal.
Yeah.
While leaving the logistics module attached. So the autopilot's engaged, and now it's just waiting for me to lift off. And so you press the button and lift off.
Yeah.
I think I may have overspec'd this ship somewhat, because it's from the actual lift stage is from one of the other components. I think it was the lifter for the cyclotrons, which was way heavier than this thing. So it's like, yes, just overthrust.
It is going up pretty quick.
Yeah. There's like a double ring of boosters around it there, so there's 12 solid rocket boosters attached to this.
Yeah. Might help.
But yeah, so the autopilot has a curtain, and the limit to terminal velocity thing is lit up because it's throttled the main engine down to 0, even though the main engine isn't firing because it's trying to keep the speed down. That's how much overthrust there is on this now. Anyway, what was I saying? Autopilot. Yep. So this is there's a curve that you can edit actually as well, and the ascent path, and so it's following that rather than. I mean, it's not following it exactly because of the way I designed the rocket. Because without the main engine firing, it's got very little steering. But it's
steering. Yeah, steering.
So rather than waiting until 10 kilometers and then pitching over, it starts to pitch over very, very gradually as it goes up from like 2.5 to 3 kilometers. I think theoretically it's slightly more efficient that way. But it's easier when you're doing it manually to not continue thinking about those things and just go to 10k and then turn.
Yeah.
So it's done the turn. It's doing the turn now, and we're on the main engines, thrusting away.
Zoomy zoom zoom.
Yeah, and it's nice as well because, I mean, initially I think that you don't want to start off using the autopilot right away. You need to sort of actually do the thing yourself a few times so you know how to do
learn.
it. But once you've got that and you're moving on to more interesting stuff that you want to do, you still have to launch rockets.
Yeah.
So having the autopilot take care of that for you means you're not expending brain power on getting the rocket up into the space, and it's like coasting to the edge of the atmosphere now, and then it'll arrange a maneuver node to circularize, and then it'll circularize and I didn't have to do anything. Just had to press space that one time. And yeah. And it's also good because it means it'll set the maneuver node up and everything, and so we can just keep watching the rocket rather than having to watch a screen with a lot of lines on it, which is slightly nicer viewing, I think. So, doing the circularization burn. And that's more or less in orbit, it's just fine-tuning it. That's it, done. Now I need to rendezvous, and I'm going to have to do this manually. So, yep. There's no fuel missing from the top stage, so we're just going to have to ditch the lift stage and move on. Yeah, this view should be familiar. Watching two ships chase each other around the planet. Alright, so...
To cue the Benny Hill music.
Yeah, it's 28 kilometers away now, so I'm going to adjust the orbit so that we'll get an intersection, hopefully.
Yep.
Burning, burning, burning. And yep, there's the intersect. Intersect 1. Yep. Then I realised that the second one is probably the one I actually want, and I need to turn around and go the other way to get that one right. Because the first one, the distance between them comes down very, very slowly, but the second one, because you're halfway around the orbit again by then, you can kind of fine tune it much better.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm doing. Down to 1.2 kilometers distance, which is not bad. There's the ship. Where's the station? Here, station.
Whee! There's a lovely view there again. With the,
it's nice, yeah, silhouetted against the planet.
Nice little bit of shred of blue of the atmosphere.
And there's the station, we're kind of falling towards it. I have sort of fine-tuned my knowledge of how to do this stuff. You know, you want to move your velocity vector around, which is what I'm about to do with the engine here, and you sort of push it push your retrograde vector towards the target, but you don't actually put it on the target. Because if it's just by the target, then if you need to go past the target to get to the docking port, then your vector will take you past. And if you don't need to, you can just slow to a stop. Rather than aiming at the target, because if you're actually aiming directly at the target and you need to go by, then you have to adjust, otherwise you smash into it and die. Which is something best avoided.
Yes. Smashing and dying.
Smashing and dying, generally. So we're going to fall past the station here. Another 400 metres away, and I'm just tweaking the vector again. And then trying to find the docking port and clicking the button like a million times, going, which one is it? I don't know. Because I didn't name them all, because I'm stupid.
Dope.
Most of them have names, but there's at least 2 that are just called Clampertron Senior Docking Port, so I don't actually know which one is which.
Clampertron, that's such a brilliant name.
Clampotron, and I think I've actually got the wrong one targeted at the moment.
Yeah,
that's the right one. That's the one that's on the bottom, which is where I actually want to go. But this is a new thing in the autopilot, which is called Smart ASS.
Smart-ass.
And it's attitude adjustment stuff. I don't actually know what ASS stands for, but what I've selected there is parallel minus, which is parallel to the target but pointing in the opposite direction. So what it'll do, it'll keep the facing of the ship correct, and I no longer have to worry about doing that, and all I have to do is translate it, which makes docking so much easier, because it'll always be pointing directly at the port. All I have to do is get them aligned and then go forwards. So hurrah for autopilots. And then there's another button there which I will press in a moment once I realise that it exists, because I'm kind of rotating around to try and get the things lined up the way I want them.
Yeah.
But I can't remember whether I use it this time. I think I do. But you can see there's a checkbox there that says force roll.
Yeah.
And if you check that, then it'll roll it to that number of degrees relative to the target, which is pretty much exactly what I want. Because I want it to be 0 degrees, aligned perfectly. But I don't know if I remembered to use it or not. Currently, the answer is no.
Okay.
But it's like I'm not having to adjust the heading at all, which is the great thing. I'm just kind of going sideways, up, down, left, right, forward, back, rather than having to rotate the ship in any way. And it just goes clunk and we're docked.
Clang.
Which is pretty damn good. And now the station's quite... Oh yes. And then I throttle up all of the engines that are attached to the station by mistake. Which, don't do that. That's a really bad idea, and if you don't turn them off again really quickly, you can rip your station to pieces. Oops. So if you can see, it's still wobbling quite a bit, because there's like 3 different engines attached to it, and they all fired.
It's not feeling so good.
Whoops. Anyway, so there's a finished experiment on this craft, so what I'm doing now is just finalising this craft so we can detach it and take it back to Kerbal. Look at that thing wobbling.
Wobble.
That's what happens when you fire all the engines that you've attached to a space station instead of pressing the button that you wanted to press.
Yeah.
So, as I said, don't do that.
No.
It's not a good idea. Transfer some fuel into the station from the ship, because all we need is enough to do the orbit, which isn't very much at all. Transfer a bit more. Then go, that's fine, whatever. And decouple the ship. And then remember that this is the one that we used to dock the solar panels, and it hasn't got any monoprop in it. But it's okay. Nope. So I can't thrust gently away, but luckily the drift is enough to get us, enough that I can rotate around and fly off. So we rotate around and fly off. Bye, space station. Quite tall now. And now we're deorbiting.
Whee!
And we warp into the atmosphere.
It's all gone.
And it's dark, because
dark and spooky.
Dark and not being able to see anything. But everything should start being on fire fairly soon, so that'll look good.
Yeah.
Hey. And then it goes a bit crazy there, because the other thing that I did at the ship that I'd forgotten about was accidentally trigger the parachutes while it was in orbit. So as soon as they were able to deploy, they did. But anyway, safe landing, back to the space.
Safe.
Quote, safe landing.
Apart from the whole getting on fire thing.
Yeah, that's fine. And now, yeah, well, it went on fire slightly. It's fine. And now,
it was designed to catch fire. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Now we have this. To set up a moon base, to do a lot of manufacturing in place, you need to mine things. So this is a miner. It's got a couple more mining drills on it.
Yeah.
It also has an autopilot attached, because basically I'm going to use the autopilot for every single launch from now on, because it's so much easier. And this is a much lighter ship. We've actually gone back to the slightly smaller. As you know, we've got the Rocket Max fuel tank and the main sail engine underneath, rather than the really big Kerbal stuff, because it's just a little lander.
Yeah.
And only 6 solid rocket boosters, and not even the biggest ones.
It's a bit more teeny.
It's
Still looks good though.
I mean, what was it? It's 150 tons or thereabouts in total.
God.
Which is,
It's practically a family car.
exactly, next to nothing. Ditch the solids. No, it rolls over as well. The autopilot does a roll so that it uses pitch rather than yaw to adjust the heading. I don't really know if that's necessary. I guess it looks cool. The lander looks a bit odd, as you might have noticed. It's got a couple of girders sticking out of the side of it, but there is a reason for that.
Yeah.
And we will find out what it is.
Well, that plume heading off though.
Yeah, it's like smoke coming out of the engine. Because the slightly weird thing, obviously, is that the engine is not firing directly along the retrograde vector, so the plume goes off in a slightly different direction from the engine fire. It's kind of odd. Anyway, but this ship, being quite light, is really not going to have any trouble getting to orbit at all.
No.
So, Space Center lights in the distance. Wee.
Zoom.
It rotates over to go more or less on the horizon.
Yep. Looks quite Russian, that. Really?
With its like bits sticking out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, now we're waiting, coasting to the edge of the atmosphere, and then I say the autopilot will do the circularization.
Autopilot's doing the job, really.
Yeah, it's like, yep, there's the node created. It rotates to point in the right direction. Do a bit of time warping, and then 11 seconds. So yeah, it'll fire. Yeah, there we go. Circularizing. Whoosh.
Excellent.
Yep. Fine tuning. Orbit established. Marvellous.
Hurrah.
And then I quick fade out there, because I kind of needed to get the hang of this maneuver planner, and didn't get it right a few times.
Yeah.
It wasn't going wrong in a hilarious way, it was just going wrong in a boring and stupid way.
Yeah.
So, but what it basically does is you can choose, like it's got a Hohmann transfer there to the target, and it'll automatically create a node at the next maneuver window that takes you to where the target is.
Yeah.
Which makes things much quicker. You do for getting to a moon, you have to fine tune it a bit, because it takes you like to the target, in the sense of being very, very close to it, which for a planet is not what you want. But it's because you can use it for rendezvousing with other ships as well.
Okay. So that's quite handy.
Yeah, so you just go to the target, and then you tweak it a little bit, so you've got a periapsis, and then you can go and do it. So you press execute, and then it'll do the thing. Rotate to face the right way. We're using the last bit of fuel out of the lift stage to get us on the way. Yeah.
There we go.
It's a lot of kind of prep work, this, because as it turns out, getting a functional colony on a different planet is quite hard. Would you believe? Anyway, so
I thought it was easy as opening a pack of Rolos.
Apparently not. There's all kinds of stuff you have to do. So we've ditched the lift stage, and we're on the standard engine now.
Yeah.
And it's doing its thing.
Yep.
it does actually slightly overshoot the desired manoeuvre,
Yeah.
but we still wind up not in the surface of the moon. So I kind of fine tune it a bit, and then it's done. And here's the moon. Hello, moon. And now we can set up so that it'll just circularize the orbit.
Yep.
So I'll set to do with a periapsis because there isn't an apoapsis in this orbit. And then go, and it just does it. Like
Faboo.
it's fabulous. Just sets the manoeuvre node, time warps to the appropriate place, turns the engines on, and does the whole thing. Circularized and done.
Excellent.
Magic. And now we deploy the scanner. Yes. This vessel has a planetary survey camera attached to it, which scans for minerals, ore, substrate, and water. So we pull up the big map to see if we can find these things. You can unfortunately only show one resource at a time. That's carbonite, if you remember from when we put the miner down. And now it's going to rescan and show ore, like that. And that is substrate. There's not very much of it. And there's probably like really small concentrations all over the place. And there's minerals. And so you get a zoom on the big map as well, which is what that is. So you can do a close-up.
It's a nice looking moon.
Yeah, and we're close-up on the flag because I'm trying to land. I want to land right next to the miner so we can just put one sort of mining facility together. And there's a reasonable supply of most things there, so I kind of go, maybe. And then I look at the water track and you can't actually see because this ship is in quite a good equatorial orbit, so it doesn't actually pass over that bit of the crater. So it's scanning for water and it can't see any there because I haven't put it in the right way. But I go, screw it, let's try and land near the prospector, and using the landing guidance, which is the other part of the autopilot.
Aha.
So you get the coordinates of the target and put them in and say land there, and it will do its best to do so.
It does.
So I got the target coordinates of the prospector, and I added 2 seconds of arc to it, so it's 2 seconds to the east of the prospector, and I went, alright, land there, and I thought that'll probably be fine. Let's find out. Again, perfect timing, landing in the pitch darkness. Go me.
Yep.
The purple
need to like fire some lights at the moon.
Yeah, the purple marker there on the right, slightly below, is where the tanker is currently parked.
Okay.
And the blue marker and the yellow marker inside it is where the flag and the prospector are.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can see the tanker is parked a little way away, slightly further away than one might want.
Yeah.
But we can adjust that later on. So. Yeah. I think they actually changed the way this autopilot worked, because it apparently used to do mad suicide burns just right at the end. But it seems to be
suicide pilot.
Seems to be thrusting more or less continuously now to sort of keep everything right, where it used to just kind of wait until very, very close to the surface and then suicide burn it.
Right.
But they've changed it. But it is, the landing autopilot is pretty accurate. As long as you're like doing it from a reasonably high orbit, so it's got like planning time.
Yeah.
So there we are. We're flying over the prospector now and applying the brakes, and now we're coming more or less straight down.
Cool.
Distance to the prospector drops and drops and drops and drops, and we bounce off it. So apparently,
that's pretty accurate.
2 seconds of arc is not very far on the moon, because that's where we landed. It's amazing that we didn't break that solar panel off.
Yeah.
So
it's like we're hugging.
So I lift off the miner a little bit and fly it away.
Yeah.
A couple of times because I don't want them right on top of each other. And just do a couple of little hops. Turn off the scanner because I don't need it anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. Switch to the prospector because I want to rotate it around, because I want to connect them together with fuel lines so they become a single installation. So I rotate the so the orange fuel line connector is pointing at the miner. And then jump someone out to actually do the work. Think. Fall off. Yep. So just walking up to it, you don't actually get close enough. I did actually put a ladder underneath for this eventuality, but he does miss the first time and fall on his head.
It's not like he's got far to go.
Straight up, grab ladder, fall off again, bounce off, do a little back somersault, and then
do a little dance.
Kind of, right, fine, let's turn the jet back on.
I'm amazed that any of the... Yeah, if we ever get anyone on the moon again, they need to moonwalk.
Right, so, yeah. So the pipe's now connected, so those two craft are now effectively one craft.
Yep.
Something else that I actually neglected to mention is that the miner craft is probe driven, it's unmanned.
Okay.
Which makes it lighter, because you don't have to have...
No, that fancy Nancy life support rubbish.
Or anything. And so we've got some solar panels here, and the reason they're on the outriggers is because of this large inflatable storage device which is sitting on the top.
Oh, cool.
So the outriggers take them out from under its shadow so that the solar panels still get the full light. And then we deploy the drills. Deploy the drills.
Drill!
Extract things.
Yep.
And yep, now we can kind of have a look at the stuff. Turn on the extractors, and yep, we go. Water, minerals, ore, and substrate are all starting to tick up. The miner is operating. And turn on the monopropellant and everything on the prospector as well, so we can get some more fuel going.
Excellent.
Still does that little jumping thing whenever we turn the time acceleration off.
Yeah.
A little bit worrying. But yeah, so that's more or less...
I do like the inflatable thing on there.
It's pretty cool. It's called an inflatable logistics module.
It's very groovy.
And it's because it's an inflatable storage, so when it's closed, like, you can only hold a very, very small amount of stuff, but when you inflate it, obviously there's more space.
Yeah.
So
very handy idea.
So that's all of our prep work for this time. So it's not perhaps been as exciting as any other missions we've had, although we did land one spaceship pretty much right on top of another one.
Yeah.
So that good. So that was a bit.
But nothing exploded.
Nothing exploded. So that's good.
Yeah. No horrible death.
But this is, again, we're getting prepared. So we move this here. This is gonna, because the colony will have refinery facilities and manufacturing facilities, so that it can help. So you bring up the minimum amount of equipment that you need, and you build the rest on site. And that's why we have this miner here, to get the raw materials. So next time we'll actually launch the colony into space, probably.
Space.
And do some other stuff, and that will probably be the largest rocket we've ever built, so that'll be good.
Excellent.
So that's it for this week. Do you have any questions or comments at this stage?
No, that's been interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, thank you very much everybody for watching, and we will see you next time.
Toodaloo.
Bye.
Space.
Space.